What if I told you that the only reason over 100 people are alive today is because of a scared little girl, just 10 years old, who had never even seen a cockpit before? Stay with me, because this is the story that defied gravity, fear, and fate. It was supposed to be an ordinary flight, Flight 237 from Denver to Seattle, carrying 132 passengers including families, business travelers, and crew. The sky that day was a clear blue canvas, stretching far beyond the horizon. No one knew that within just an hour, the serenity of the clouds would turn into a nightmare no one could ever forget. Among the passengers was a widowed father, Daniel Hughes, and his 10-year-old daughter, Emily. Daniel was exhausted, still grieving from the loss of his wife 6 months ago in a car accident. Emily, who used to be bubbly and full of life, hadn't spoken much since that day. Therapy didn't help, school didn't help, only one thing brought her comfort: stories of airplanes and dreams of becoming a pilot, just like her late mom had once wanted to be. Emily carried a worn notebook filled with airplane sketches and hand-copied manuals. She studied flight videos obsessively, not to play but to escape, to feel close to her mom, whose voice echoed in her memories, "The sky listens to the brave." About 45 minutes into the flight, cruising at 15,000 feet, something went terribly wrong. A sudden jolt, then another. Alarms screamed in the cockpit. The autopilot disengaged on its own. The co-pilot, 26-year-old Raj Patel, tried to stabilize the aircraft, but nothing responded. Captain Lewis, a 25-year veteran, narrowed his eyes and gripped the controls with icy calm, but panic brewed beneath his skin. They were losing control. Oxygen masks dropped. Passengers screamed. Luggage tumbled from overhead bins as the plane shook violently. Emily clutched her father's hand so tight he thought it might break. But Daniel was too stunned to speak. Flight attendants, barely holding themselves upright, yelled for everyone to stay calm. But calm had left the cabin long ago. Inside the cockpit, it was chaos. "We're not responding to manual override. Avionics might be shot. I can't even engage flaps." Captain Lewis shouted. "Should we declare Mayday?" Raj's voice trembled. Lewis didn't respond. He stared at the blank screens. The emergency systems were failing. "Do it," he finally said, defeated. "Declare Mayday, but we may not make it." The transmission went out to air traffic control. "Mayday, Mayday, Flight 237, we have lost flight control systems. Request immediate emergency guidance. Possible crash landing." Back in the cabin, a mother fainted. A businessman was on his knees praying. A child cried out for her dog at home. Emily sat frozen. Her fingers trembled as she slowly reached into her backpack and pulled out the small book, her notebook. She flipped through pages she knew by heart, diagrams of cockpit panels, emergency procedures, flight trajectories, all sketched in a child's hand with surprising precision. She didn't know what she was doing exactly, but something told her, this was her moment. Her mom's voice echoed in her heart again, "The sky listens to the brave." She unbuckled her seatbelt. "Emily, what are you doing?" her father screamed, grabbing her wrist. I have to try something, Daddy. You stay here, it's not safe." But Emily was already crawling over the trembling floor, dodging terrified passengers, stumbling toward the front of the plane. A flight attendant tried to stop her. "You can't go in there, sweetheart." Emily looked up with wide eyes. "Please, I think I know what to do. My mom was a pilot." The attendant hesitated. Seconds felt like hours. Finally, the woman relented, opened the cockpit door, and yelled, "Captain, we have a child here. She says she knows something." Lewis spun around, wild-eyed. "What? We don't have time for games." But Raj noticed something. The book in Emily's hand, it wasn't a child's toy. It was filled with serious notes. "Let her speak," Raj said. Emily stepped inside. She stared at the panels, the blinking lights, the shivering metal bird around them. Her voice shook. "You need to reset the YDPC manually, here." She pointed at a panel near the captain's left arm. Lewis looked stunned. "That system is locked, not if you bypass it using dual stick pressure and hold for 7 seconds. I read it, it was in a 2003 flight manual for this model." Lewis blinked. Raj leaned in. "She's right, I've seen that in simulator overrides. It was an old trick." Lewis didn't hesitate further. With nothing left to lose, he did exactly as she said. Pressed, held. For a moment, nothing. Then, beep, system reset. Yaw stabilizer re-engaged. The plane leveled just slightly. Then a second chime. Flight control recovery initiated. The pilots exchanged looks of disbelief. How did you know that? Raj whispered. My mom taught me, Emily said softly. Lewis grabbed the controls, now partially responsive. We have a window, we can guide her down. Control wasn't perfect. The damage had been real. But they had just enough to maneuver. Air traffic control gave them emergency clearance for a landing field 40 miles away. It would be rough, but it was possible. Passengers sat in breathless silence as the plane descended. Every moment felt like the last. Emily stayed in the cockpit, her eyes glued to the panel. Occasionally, she whispered suggestions. Ideas from her little book that continued to shock the seasoned pilots. 25 minutes later, Flight 237 touched down. Hard, skidding off the runway. Sparks flew, tires burst, but it stopped. Everyone was alive. Silence followed the landing, until cheers erupted, cries of joy, sobbing. People embraced strangers like family. Somewhere, a man dropped to his knees and thanked God. Captain Lewis stepped out, pale, sweat-drenched, shaken, but alive. He took the microphone and said one thing. This aircraft was saved today, not by me, but by a 10-year-old girl named Emily Hughes. She is the real captain today. The cabin broke into thunderous applause. Daniel ran forward and swept his daughter into his arms, tears flowing freely. You saved us all. Emily, shy and overwhelmed, whispered in his ear, I think Mom would be proud. Ending hook. Speak to the camera, viewers directly, as if revealing this afterward in video form. And that's how a little girl, armed only with a notebook, memories of her mother, and a heart full of courage, did the impossible at 15,000 feet. When everyone else gave up, she stood up. She reminded us that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes, they're 10 years old, holding a dream. If you were moved by this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. We bring you stories that restore faith in humanity, one incredible moment at a time. Because sometimes, the smallest voice in the room carries the power to save the world.